So this one is all about pH. pH is the relative activity of your hydrogen ions. So you got to know the hydrogen ion concentration, but you want to know how active they are. When you look at the scale, of course it goes up to 14. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, where 7 is neutral. Everything above 7 is alkaline or basic or a base. And everything, below 7, probably should end it more right there, is acidic. Or has acidity, or is an acid, however you want to word that. Basically, when you're measuring pH, you're measuring the amount of free hydrogen ions, because pretty much if they're free, they're active. And it is a tenfold change from one to the next. So when we look at, say, a pH of 3, that is when we are looking at the hydrogen activity, concentration activity, is 10 to the negative 3, which is 0.001, because you'd be moving at 1, 2, 3. Okay? So then if you were to look at, let's say, 4, that is 10 to the negative 4. So this is if pH of 3, pH of 4, which would be 0.0001. Okay, so you would multiply this times 10, this bottom one times 10 to get that one. So it is a 10, what we say a tenfold difference when you go from one to the other. So when you go from one to the other, you can't say 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. You have to say 10, and then 10 times 10 is 100, times 10 is 1,000. So if you're going from 1 to 2, that's a difference of tenfold. If you're going from 1 to 3, that's 100-fold. If you're going from 1 to 4, that's 1,000-fold. Or 1 to 5 is 10,000-fold. And so again, you're looking at the relative activity. So a pH of 3, those hydrogen ions, there are more of them, and therefore their activity is about 100 times more. Oops, I got that backwards. The 1s are about 100 times more active than the 3. So as you go this way, they get less concentration, less active of hydrogen ions, and as you go this way, you have more hydrogen ions and therefore more activity. So that is the pH scale. Another thing that I'm doing, sorry, I'm looking over my notes here, I can describe the neutralization process. Well, when you have a acid and a base, they come together, they are going to go through a chemical reaction in which they are going to form two things, a salt and water. Now I picked one that was easy, so it's actually forming the salt that we know, table salt, but it could have been potassium hydroxide, in which case this would have been potassium chloride. So it doesn't have to be salt as we know it, NaCl. It could be any kind of salt, but that's what's going to happen. So you're going to get water and you're going to get salt. Usually the salt precipitates out, not always. Depends on how much there is, but that's what happens. They neutralize each other, forming water and a salt. All right, I can explain how a buffer works. Buffers have free ions that can bind to, and we use the term absorb, excess, so free ions that absorb, and that just means they bind to and take them out of solution, any free hydrogen or hydroxide ions. So if you add an acid, it can bind all of those up. So it's almost like you didn't even add that acid, it just sucks them all up. If you add a base, then it will suck up all those OHs. And so buffers are able to resist pH changes because they have these ions that can absorb or bond to these and basically take them out of solution. So it's like you didn't even add them. They do have a point at which they can't continue to buffer. So if you keep adding acid, you keep adding acid, and you keep adding acid, eventually you're going to use up all of these free ions and they're not going to be able to absorb or bond to any more of the hydrogens. And so you're going to see that change towards an acid. But they do, as far as addition of small acids and bases, small amounts of acids or bases, they will keep your pH in a very narrow range. Your blood is buffered. Most body systems are buffered because we need to keep our pH in a tight range so that our enzymes will work. But that is how a buffer works. And then I think that's it. So if you have any other questions about pH, the pH scale, neutralization process down here, or how buffers work, just let me know and we'll go over it some more. I hope this helps.